Hello again, I'm Dr. Dawn Harper and I'm back here with Spatial Wellbeing, and today I'd like to talk to you about sleep. I'm getting a lot of questions from people who are really starting to struggle a little bit, I think, with lockdown, and often sleep is affected, and I think there are two main reasons for that. For many of us, our routine has perhaps gone a little bit AWOL, and the other is, I know there's a lot of anxiety and concern out there, and of course that has a huge impact on our sleep and our quality of sleep. So I thought we'd just spend a little bit of time thinking about how we can try to improve the quality of our sleep during lockdown, and really start thinking about routine. The human body likes routine. So when we are normally working, we would probably get up at the same sort of time each day. We'd probably then go to bed at the same sort of time each night. And I know that actually if you're a shift worker, then sleep issues are often a big deal because you can't have that routine. With more and more of us working from home, we've probably got that little bit more flexibility than we would have had in the past. And if you're a little bit of a night owl rather than a skylark, it may be that actually you can shunt your day slightly, because if you are naturally not very good in the morning, maybe you could start a little bit later. It doesn't really matter. We can shunt the day according to what works for us. The key is routine. So do try to stick to getting up at the same time and going to bed at the same time. My next tip is to say, try and get outside into natural daylight, especially in the morning. So daylight or light in general triggers wakefulness. And the converse is true. At the end of the day, try to think about keeping everything very dim and dark. One of the things I've often thought is that the last thing most of us usually do before we go to bed is go into our bathrooms to wash our face and clean our teeth. And of course, most bathrooms are very brightly lit, so we are, just before we go to bed, we are putting ourselves into an environment which would stimulate the brain into thinking maybe it should be awake. So think about dim lighting in your bathroom, maybe even candle lights in your bathroom, so that everything is very dim. And if you can, invest in blackout blinds or curtains. Certainly at this time of year, even without lockdown, I think a lot of people find that with the sun rising very early and going down very late, that actually our bedrooms are perhaps not as dark as we'd like them to be and less conducive to getting off to sleep. So blackout curtains are a good thing to think about. Temperature is another thing. We are having some very strange weather at the moment. We've gone from sort of wanting central heating on to it being beautiful summer days, and we kind of seem to be flip-flopping between the two quite a lot. Experts would tell us that the ideal temperature for your bedroom should be around about 18 degrees centigrade, and I'm sure even if you haven't thought about it formally in the past, most of us will realise that actually if we're very cold we can't get off to sleep, or if we're very hot and sweaty that we can't get off to sleep. So having a room that is a good temperature will be conducive to sleep. The other thing that I think we should be mindful of is, I always say that bedrooms should be for sleeping and sex. And I say that flippantly, but I do mean it, in that more and more of us probably have televisions perhaps in our bedroom, and if you're watching something really exciting and something that gets your adrenaline rushing late at night, then your brain is going to be very alert and wired, and really you need to be coming down to a relaxed mode and to a relaxed time before you're ready for bed. So I would say try not to watch television in bed last thing at night. And I'd go one stage further to say that if you are still awake 20 minutes, maximum 30 minutes after you've gone to bed, then perhaps you should get up, go to another room, listen to some quiet music, read a book for a while until your brain starts to slow down again, and then go back and try again to go to sleep. I've touched on television, technology. I always encourage my children, wherever I possibly could not to have their technology in their room. The blue light from our mobile devices, our tablets and our phones and so on, does waken the brain. But there's more to it than that. You know, you're lying in bed and you hear a buzz, then your chances are you're going to check that message. That message might be a positive, it might be a negative, and it might get your mind worrying, it might start you worrying and thinking about tomorrow, or you might get involved in a conversation, and of course all of that is eating into your sleep time. So invest in a good old-fashioned alarm clock and keep your technology out of your bedroom. Lots of you telling me that you're having strange dreams, and I think some of this actually may well be linked to anxiety. We know that nightmares and vivid dreams are more common when people are anxious and stressed. So whilst it's completely normal to dream, if you are finding that you are getting a lot more dreams than you usually do, especially if they are quite angst-provoking, then this could be a sign that the stress is getting to you a little bit. And I would just keep an eye on that. So if your partner starts sleep talking or sleep walking, having not done so before, then those can be signs that stress and anxiety are starting to become an issue, and it may be that it's time for you to have a chat with your doctor. As I've said before on this channel, and I'm sure I'll say many, many more times, you know, your GP surgery door at the moment is still locked, but your GP surgery is still very much open for you. We want to hear from you. In fact, we're very aware that the stress of lockdown and all the worries about coronavirus will be taking their toll. And mental health is just like physical health. You know, the sooner we recognise the problem and start to tackle it and treat it, the quicker and the easier it is to come out the other side. So your GP does want to hear from you. It'll be by telephone, but actually often stress-related things are perhaps more appropriately dealt with by telephone. So your doctor will definitely want to hear from you if you're struggling. I love exercise. I really enjoy dog walking and cycling, and I certainly at the moment am trying to get out at least once a day, every day, and I know that regular exercise is good for my routine, but it's also good for sleep patterns. So try, if you can, to use that opportunity to exercise regularly, but don't exercise too vigorously later on in the evening. That will again stimulate wakefulness. So if you can, try to exercise earlier in the day. Another thing I think we should talk about is caffeine. Caffeine has what we call a half-life of 8 hours. What that means is it takes 8 hours for the caffeine in your system to clear half of that dose from your body. So if you're somebody who's struggling with sleep and you're having coffee, let's say at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, then half of that dose is still in your system at midnight. So if you are sensitive to caffeine, try cutting all caffeine out after about midday so that you know that by 8 o'clock at night, at least half of it is gone. And that isn't just coffee. Tea and colas and hot chocolate all contain caffeine, and actually decaffeinated drinks do often have some caffeine in them. So if you're very sensitive, just be mindful of that. And I would say beware alcohol. Alcohol is a depressant, so it will help you get off to sleep. There's no question about that. But it is very well recognised that it actually interferes with the normal sleep waves and patterns. So when we go to sleep, we go into different depths of sleep in a kind of in a wave form, in an oscillating way through the night. And that is the way that our brain recovers and how we get rested. Alcohol interferes with that, so you don't get what I call the real battery recharge sleep. So whilst it might help you unwind a little bit and get you off to sleep, be very careful about using alcohol as a crutch to get you to sleep, because actually it's not going to help in the long term. And I guess finally, my last little tip is I often talk, and it's something I do myself, is I have a pen and paper beside my bed. I think we've probably all recognised that overactive brain, you know, or you think of something that you must remember tomorrow, something you've got to take with you to work in the days when we went to work, something that you've got to remember to do, somebody you must remember to call, or whatever. And what happens is you're lying in bed and you think, I'm going to forget that, I'm going to forget that. And it goes round and round and round in your brain, keeping you awake, but you can't, you've lost your willpower, maybe you're cozy in bed, you don't really want to go downstairs and get a pen and paper and write it down. I have a pen and paper beside my bed and I can literally scribble it down and then I put it away and it's out of my mental in tray. And that way you know that you're going to remember whatever it was in the morning, but it's not going to go round and round in your brain, stopping you from getting to sleep at night. I hope some of those help. You know, it's tricky time. Lockdown is stressful for a lot of people, and many of you perhaps will be on your own, which means you don't have the distraction, and I think that sometimes can impact on our sleep as well at the end of the day. So, you know, please try those tips. But if you're struggling with sleep, please do talk to your doctor. You know, we are, as I say, we are very much still here for you. Sleeping pills are effective, but only very much in the short term. In fact, they're only licensed for a couple of weeks. And there's very good reason for that. You know, to take pills for a few days, perhaps after a very stressful time. You know, I know there are people facing redundancies. We've had far too many families in this country who've experienced bereavement through this pandemic. And in those sorts of circumstances, a short course of sleeping pills may be an appropriate way to go, but they're not a long-term solution. Unfortunately, you can get addicted to them really very quickly. So if you need sleeping pills in the short term, and that's a conversation to have with your doctor, and if your doctor is comfortable with prescribing, they will talk to you about the potential for addiction and how it's very important that you only use those pills as prescribed, and please don't ever take somebody else's. It's really important that you speak to your own doctor about your own issues. So look, I hope that that helps. I hope you all get a decent night's sleep going forward. And as always, please do tell me if there are things you want me to talk about. Message me. And until next time, stay safe and stay well.